switching. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll give folks a little bit to get in. I had grand dreams of playing some music in the background and having a slideshow, but I have to limit myself here. Great. All right. I'll keep letting folks in, but in the meantime, we can go ahead and get started. One classic Zoom reminder is to please keep yourselves muted. And if you're so inclined, have your video on. This is a fun celebration. We're excited to have everyone here. And we can jump right in. So welcome to Missoula Nonprofit Center's Philanthropy Day 2020 virtual celebration. We really appreciate you all joining us this Friday to celebrate just a few of the many successes that we have seen in Missoula County in this otherwise very challenging year. At the end of the challenging year that has been 2020, we thought we'd push our luck by holding a never been done before virtual event on Friday the 13th. So wish us luck. My name is Danny Howlett, and I'm the coordinator of the Missoula Nonprofit Center, a program that is so lucky to, I'm letting people in still while trying to talk, a program that is so lucky to be fueled and supported by our members, the amazing nonprofits from all around our community. So the Missoula Nonprofit Center, or MNC, is a program of United Way of Missoula County that was launched in May of 2019 with the goal of strengthening our nonprofit sector and providing trainings, networking opportunities, resources, and more with Missoula County nonprofits. Since our inception, MNC has grown to be just over 100 nonprofit members and has hosted multiple trainings covering everything from board governance to donor retention and beyond. We have a really awesome, diverse set of members, everything from direct service organizations to environmental organizations to arts organizations and beyond. Pre-COVID, we hosted lots of fun in-person networking get-togethers for our members, as well as in-person trainings. And just like everyone else, we have since transitioned to the virtual world. So even though we really miss being with everybody in person, we are really excited to forge ahead with today's celebration, short virtual celebration of philanthropy in Missoula and celebrate this year's 5 amazing award winners. One thing to note, I think, about this virtual world is that we can have folks from all over joining us for today in an event that would typically be a little more limited to Missoula County residents. So I know we have one nonprofit member joining from Nome, Alaska today, and we have parents of award winners joining from outside of Missoula. My mom is here from Polson to kind of see what it is I do day to day. So we really appreciate that side of the virtual world. So we can be thankful for that. You can see our amazing award winners with their virtual backgrounds. So thank you to our winners for indulging me and having those flashy backgrounds. I think our winners this year are quite a humble bunch. So we appreciate that willingness. And I guess, so yeah, speaking of Zoom backgrounds, I have found throughout the planning of this event that there are only so many ways to jazz up a Zoom event, but most of it starts with the people on the call, of course. So we're really excited to have Susan Haypatrick from United Way and Liz Moore, the executive director of the Montana Nonprofit Association, on the call today. We have a great awards presentation video to share with you, courtesy of MCAT, who's also recording and broadcasting today's event. So thank you to MCAT. And at the end, we are going to do a drawing for a $500 donation to one of the nonprofits represented on today's call. You must be present to win. This will be short, but I'm keeping you on the Zoom as long as possible. So last, I hope that most of you were able to pick up your little goodie bags full of a little bit of candy, some tea, a couple other things. We also included a little 30-day self-care wellness challenge in each bag. We all know that folks in the profit sector have been working so hard, working so tirelessly this year. So we wanted to remind you to just take care of yourself by taking some small, simple steps and trying that 30-day challenge in December. One small disclaimer, one of the steps listed, I later realized, is to take a nap outside. So I would just recommend saving that to maybe mid 2021, if we're being realistic, probably July, August-ish. And so all of that obviously has been made possible by our presenting sponsor, Flaherty Consulting, who Susan's going to talk about a little bit later. So thank you to Keegan and Flaherty Consulting. Okay, so a few more things from me before I turn it over to Susan. There are a few folks I want to shout out. First and foremost, I want to extend a huge thank you to the Western Montana Fundraisers Association, otherwise known as WMFRA, and to everyone who was involved with that organization over the years. So WMFRA was led by an all-volunteer board of directors, and they started and kept the Philanthropy Day celebration alive in Missoula for 25 years. Looking back at their records, it looks like they held the first celebration in 1995. So well before this year's outstanding young philanthropist was born, a couple years after I was born. So Philanthropy Day really has been a staple in the community, thanks to WMFRA and all of their tireless board members over the years. And I know we have some of them on this call: Jesse Rogers, Aaron Wilkins, Aaron Nuzzo, Rita, Cindy, Maria. We just want to thank you. And then I don't think they're on, but Jess Allred and of course Dorsey Devarshkis for keeping WMFRA going and for all your hard work over the years. They have done so much for the hardworking development professionals and fundraisers in our community over the years in the form of networking and all sorts of support. So if we were in person, I would ask for a round of applause for WMFRA. We have emojis and hand gestures to make up for that on Zoom. Okay, so since this was MNC's first year hosting Philanthropy Day, we definitely needed some help from the pros, which is why I also want to give a special thank you to Jesse Rogers of the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. She served on WMFRA's board through the transition and then agreed to serve on our event planning committee for today's celebration. So she came to the table not only with a ton of institutional knowledge and tips and tricks, but also with tons of innovative ideas for celebrating virtually. So she was a huge help. Thank you, Jesse. And thanks to everyone else who helped on the committee, including United Way's own Aaron Wilkins, Susan Haypatrick, and our amazing MNC intern, Samantha Boutte. who is in class right now, but she's coming for the second half of the event, rounding out the end of her first semester at UM. So one of Jesse's great ideas was recruiting the wonderful folks at MCAT to help us pre-record the award presentation and put together a wonderful video for us to show you today. So another big thanks to MCAT, especially Ron, who drove all around town a couple weeks ago to film everybody and then edited together the video that we will watch shortly. And then thanks to Scott from MCAT, who's here today recording. Okay, so that is enough from me. I would now like to turn it over to Susan Hay-Patrick, the CEO of United Way of Missoula County, to say a few words and introduce our keynote speaker.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks to you for all your hard work, from just the whole concept to the virtual backgrounds to agendas, the filming. It's been really great. I look forward to snagging a goodie bag myself later. Thank you all for being here today. It's so great to see so many familiar faces and some new faces. And I want to start by thanking our sponsor and my friend, Keegan Flaherty of Flaherty Consulting. Keegan has devoted her entire career to supporting people and organizations and helping them become more focused, efficient, sustainable, and successful. She's been a volunteer, a staff member, an executive director, a consultant, and a board member. She has worked with over 40 nonprofits nationwide, and she has a lot of experience teaching, facilitating, assessing, leading strategic planning. Now my cat is like, get out of here. Sorry. I'm never so interesting as when I'm on Zoom. And also my cat is obsessed with Liz Moore, so he knows that he must know she's on the call. Anyway, Keegan has tremendous experience, including helping boards transition from working boards to governing boards. I got to know Keegan best when she coordinated the capital campaign that resulted in the new Poverello Center. That campaign would not have succeeded without her. And she brings that same level of passion and energy and expertise and patience to her work today. You can see a long list of her clients at FlahertyConsult.com. I know she didn't know I was going to say all this and probably is dying there, but it can be really challenging to find a consultant, and it can be even more challenging to find a good consultant and the right consultant. And I'm just so proud of all the work that Keegan has done and is doing. So thank you so much, Keegan. I am now going to move on to introduce the object of my cat Stanley's affection, Liz Moore. Liz is well, first of all, Liz grew up on a ranch in eastern Montana, but she's been living in western Montana since 1984. She has served as executive director of the Montana Nonprofit Association since 2011. Prior to joining MNA, she worked for 16 years for the Rocky Mountain Development Council, a community action agency serving South Central Montana. Liz has a long history of board experience and service to both the public and private entities throughout Montana. Nationally, she serves on the board of directors of the National Council of Nonprofits. Most recently, statewide, she serves on the board of, she served on the task force, rather, advising Governor Bullock on deploying the $1.2 billion that came to Montana via the CARES Act. And just this week, Governor-elect Gianforte has named her to his coronavirus task force. Liz graduated from Carroll College and has a master's in nonprofit management from Regis University. So that's Liz on paper. But here's the important stuff about Liz, other than that I consider her one of my closest friends, which is, of course, the most important thing to me about Liz. She is Montana's most thoughtful and gifted nonprofit leader, period. Under her leadership, MNA has strengthened and secured its role as a powerful and influential voice for our state's nonprofit sector. During the COVID-19 pandemic, MNA has been an absolutely essential lifeline of communication, information, policy advocacy, support, and just plain cheerleading. If you're not already an MNA member, you should go to mtnonprofit.org and join. Liz is also a devoted family person. She and Tia delight in their kids and grandkids. She's a talented photographer. She loves to fly fish. She's got a great eye for design of all kinds. When she stays at my house, she rearranges the flowers I've just arranged and they end up looking better. Damn it. And she is one of the very few humans that my cat Stanley adores. So it is for all these reasons that I want to be like Liz when I grow up. I am so honored to be her friend and to introduce her today. So please welcome via virtual applause, Liz Moore.
Thank you so much. I got flustered and my whole thing, all my papers fell to the floor. Hi, Stanley. This one's for you, buddy. I am really pleased, but I do have to pick my paper up. Just a minute. I love how home and our home personalities are so much more visible and part of our lives. It's kind of nice not to be quite so categorical. So I am delighted to be here, and Susan, that was really a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much, and thanks for asking me to be here. And it's good to see so many of you on the screen. Yeah, I know many of you, some I don't, and so glad to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the state of the nonprofit sector, and I'm particularly going to talk about COVID and kind of the times we're in. And then I'm going to also spend some time on the significance of philanthropy in this context and my own spin on philanthropy. But first, I want to give you a little bit of information. Many of you know M&A is somewhere between being a trade association and a cause. And we are founded on the belief that a strong nonprofit sector is as essential to Montana's prosperity and future and vibrancy as a healthy, thriving business environment and a functional government. And there's so much I could say about functional government right now, but I won't. We have 600 plus nonprofit members, and I thank those of you in Missoula who are part of M&A. We also serve the sector at large. We have a real belief in leading with generosity, that we're all better when we're all better. And so our work is not at all limited to our members, although we value you because you carry the water for being the voice for Montana's nonprofit sector. So just a little bit about the sector in the state before I talk about Missoula. Montana is home to almost 8,000 501c3 organizations. I know that's a shocking number, but first let's carve off about 700 of them that are Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has this whole list all organized in Montana. So if we take those out, we have about 7,200 501c3s. Of those, about 2,200 are wage paying. All the rest are all volunteer. And so that's significant because nonprofits have volunteer board members, and then there's this host of nonprofits that are all volunteer otherwise. So Missoula is home to about 795, and I say about because the stats are always a year or two behind, and we pull a lot of different data, and we're right now working on an update to this report that we do every 2 years before the legislative session. But of the 795 in Missoula, in Missoula County, about 250 of those are employers. And so I know Missoula, you often believe that you have the most nonprofits in the state. And in fact, I don't know that anyone has more, but you're kind of on par. I think Yellowstone County might have a few more just because of the population there. And you have slightly more than Gallatin County, although that was 2 years ago, and who knows, things might have shifted a bit since then. Montana has a lot of nonprofits per capita. And it's a structure that really works for Montana in a couple of ways. One, it helps us manage the quality of life we want in this massive geography. Communities are far enough apart that they need to be kind of self-sustaining. And that's part of why every town in Montana, like Dillon, Red Lodge, massively different. Miles City, even Sydney, they're like massively different from each other, much less Billings and Missoula or Great Falls and Helena. So there's a real sense of independent community, and nonprofits are often at the heart of that. So here in Missoula, as is the case with the rest of Montana, nonprofits can be thought of in multiple, like through multiple frames. So first of all, there are the safety net organizations like the PAV, the Food Bank, the HRDC, Homeward, YWCA, St. Pat's, and many, many others that are involved with kind of health, safety, well-being in that way. Then we have nonprofits that are integral to our lives and quality of life, but not necessarily from a safety perspective. I think about Adventure Cycling, Dolce Canto, Missoula Children's Theater, Five Valleys Land Trust, the ZAC. Yes, they are essential to our well-being, but not necessarily our safety. It's a different way. And then there's another group that really doesn't fit as well into either of those categories, and maybe I would call those kind of social or social justice oriented. So the Human Rights Network, Forward Montana, Jeanette Rankin Peace Center, Empower Montana. So these organizations really reflect our aspirations in terms of shared humanity. And maybe I would put United Way in that group. It's a little bit of its own animal, but that bringing forward how we want to live together in a community is what United Way is all about. So any given day of the week, nonprofits are managing a real lift in terms of our collective aspirations for being a safe, enjoyable, and equitable home state. And now then we bring in COVID, we bring in racial unrest, a divisive political environment. And so in that context, how are nonprofits doing? Well, when the COVID crisis hit, M&A really quickly put together an advisory group that includes a dozen or so nonprofit leaders from across the state. Susan is one of those. And we worked intensively with that group, and we still do meet every other week to provide this ongoing, succinct narrative to funders, to members of administration, the Department of Public Health and Human Services, really, and our federal delegation. We wanted them to know, in an ongoing way, how are things going with the nonprofit sector? Not to whine, but I will for just a hot minute. We don't have an SBA for nonprofits, and we don't have Department of Commerce for nonprofits. So, we have to kind of figure out a way to cobble together our voice, and we do that. And, we had the opportunity, as Susan said, to sit on the Coronavirus Relief Fund Task Force, which was about that $1.2 billion. And we really made a difference there. Nonprofits are receiving relief. And in some states, that is not the case. Or the argument went on so long that it really was moot by the time it was settled. So with all of that, I feel well positioned to give you some information about how things are going. In the earliest days of COVID, we saw this tiered impact, and I know you saw this in Missoula. Some safety net organizations had to just keep going. They had to rapidly find PPE, get their staff risk trained because the need wasn't going to stop. Domestic violence, shelter, food, those organizations really didn't take a break. In fact, there were people who in those organizations were so swamped that they had struggled to find the time to even apply for relief grants. And there was a real outpouring of generosity, and still continues to be, for these safety net organizations. Some faced unique funding challenges because their revenue was tied to the services they provide. So I think about mental health organizations, disability organizations. For those, they were asked to bring their census down, bring their staffing up, find PPE, and had no money. I mean, it was really a tough situation. And I think they received some relief when the CARES Act funding did come through. But that was pretty dicey times for some of those serving our most vulnerable brothers and sisters among us. And then there were organizations that aren't a safety net, as I said before, but I think of them as the Montana we love. And so those are the arts, museums, symphonies, conservation, all the unlimiteds, the ducks, the trout, the pheasant, the geese, all of those unlimiteds. Some of them are primarily donation driven, and they had to really quickly pivot to fundraising in a virtual world. And with limited success, I mean, especially in the early days, March, April, May, think about how many galas there are during that time. People didn't know how to do an online fundraising event. And so that was a tough deal. And then there are the ones that are more like business in that they need customers, they need an audience. And the Missoula Children's Theater, the Symphony, Missoula Art Museum, from my perspective, the arts organizations generally were the hardest hit because they weren't receiving that outpouring toward safety services that some were, and they weren't able to sell tickets, so they were just like laying people off. They had to, and still arts have taken a back seat in many cases, not all. So I know none of this is hugely surprising, but it kind of gives you the lay of the land across the state and, of course, in Missoula. Giving has remained strong. Giving by foundations, the larger foundations, has been tremendous. The statistic I read is that it was, it far outstripped any hurricane giving that we've ever seen or any other kind of natural disaster. And just like broke records all over the place. Chronicle of Philanthropy is a publication I read occasionally when I'm going to do something like this and need to look intelligent. They did a report in October that showed that 36% of donors, this was like 1,000 people or 1,000 people responded to this survey. 36% plan to give more in December than they did last December. 44% plan to give the same amount, 20% plan to reduce their giving. And 61% of donors who plan to give more in December have already given more in 2020 than in all of 2019. So that tells you it's not just foundations. I mean, those are donors. And so we sometimes wonder, like the really big foundations threw in a ton of money. And we wonder like what's happening with donors because the tax deduction is different now. And yet donations seem to be holding strong. People who have are giving. So the economic picture, as we look at next year, well, the state economic picture impacts us now, and it will then as well. Current unemployment is 5.3%, which is ranks us 18th nationally. And that's down significantly from what it was in April when it was up around 11%. And so we've regained, but we're not back to where we were pre-COVID by any stretch. And this number doesn't include people who voluntarily left the workforce to care for kids because school became impossible or childcare. And it also doesn't include people who involuntarily went to work full-time or part-time. And so the number actually is a higher number, probably more in the mid 7% if we were going to use that data. So how does this add up? Well, with federal support and state support and serious generosity on the part of citizens and foundations, 2020 will probably end okay for most. Not all, but most nonprofits will probably go into 2021 in a decent year-end position. But it's next year, that people are concerned about. And I'm going to be a dire for a minute, and I am not naturally a dire person. But I think it's just worth getting a real handle on reality, especially as we think about philanthropy. So tax revenue is going to be decreased because earnings are decreased. We don't know how much. I heard yesterday somebody, the head of Montana Association of Counties, used the number of 13%. Then this morning I had a conversation where the number was quite a bit higher, maybe more like 20%. I mean, can you imagine like going down a fifth? And Then we have a legislature that was put into place who has a priority of not raising taxes and holding the state at a zero spending increase. And the economy will be constricted, we know that, and unemployment will continue, and all of that will impact charitable giving. So we have a constricted state budget, constricted federal, and a constricted charitable giving. And we need to be prepared for every nonprofit in the community to experience that. It will be a huge impact. I think, we're talking at M&A about really getting how can we increase our savvy around everything from collaboration to merger and acquisition, so that the mission can continue forward even if nonprofits aren't able to sustain themselves. So in the middle of all that, of course, is nonprofit leadership. And, candidly, nonprofit leaders are tired. We meet with a lot of nonprofit leaders every week in various ways, various reasons. And it's not that there isn't resilience and exhilaration and kind of the satisfaction of a job well done, but leaders are managing our own lives, your own lives, and your families, and the demands of school and all of that, along with hoping your staff are doing okay, caring for staff, trying to keep a team together and cohesive in a virtual world, and then the constituents and how our constituents are doing. So we have leaders wondering how seniors are, wondering how little kids are, all of that. And there's this fatigue over time. We all knew it was going to be a marathon, but one of the things I've said recently is it's more like the Forrest Gump, how he just that one year he took off running and he ran for like a year. That was just his life then. It wasn't a marathon. That's where we are. This is our life. We are Forrest Gump, looking for the box of chocolates. So, I know that now is when I'm supposed to say, but, everything will be okay. And in fact, everything is probably going to stay hard for a while. And so I don't want to whitewash that. I want to honor the magnitude of human spirit that is coming forward to meet this time, because I think that's part of philanthropy. We think about, healthcare workers, Indian health centers coping with the starkness of health inequality, group home staffs, people handing out food, calling seniors, people are fatigued. So I want to talk now about philanthropy and the role of philanthropy in the middle of that. It goes so far beyond giving money. And I know you've heard that philanthropy comes from root words that mean love of humanity. And it's important right now, I think, to remember that, because that's the commodity we need. And that's what we're celebrating today. We're talking about a philanthropy, not just being resources, but bringing water to the well, if you will. And so I think about, reading through who is receiving recognition today, and an organization bringing water to the well by looking beyond their own experiences and making sure that anyone who needs access to mental, physical, spiritual health care resources has that. That's bringing water to the well. Bringing water to the well by recognizing a deficit, a need for something as simple and yet as elusive as masks, and giving time, energy, and resources to creatively meet that need and compassionately meet that need. That's bringing water to the well. An individual bringing water to the well by volunteering as a servant leader, making a better world for the entire community through recycling. So that is both now and for future generations. That's bringing water to the well. A young person bringing water to the well, leading the way for all of us as a volunteer and a philanthropist, teaching us how to give our lives to something larger. That's bringing water to the well. And then the resource development person who is ensuring that in the midst of all this, a community has a vibrant core and a vibrant downtown, bringing water to the well. So this is philanthropy. And yes, of course, it involves money. But the truth is, what we're really celebrating is love of our fellow human beings, and that's bigger. I can give everything away and still miss the boat when it comes to love and grace and shared humanity. There's this, and I know I'm speaking to the choir. There's this spirit of generosity, generous thinking, that is the core of generous acting and the heart of philanthropy. And we need that. We need that generosity right now in our communities, in our families, toward ourselves. We're longing for it. And I think it's the path through COVID and whatever else comes. The good news is that spirit of generosity, the light of philanthropy, is already within each of us, and it can be cultivated. And that's what we're doing here today. We're cultivating something larger, something that will see us through the circumstances we're facing. So many times in the past few months, colleagues and friends have said, what can I do? What can we do? In the face of COVID, what can we do? And in the toxic political environment, regardless of which side you're on, I don't know that we can argue with the word toxic. What can we do? And George Floyd, what can we do? I think it's an appropriate question every day. And those of us who have, whether that be comfort or money or privilege or influence or an ounce of self-restraint, we have this responsibility to stoke the fire of generosity within ourselves first. It's a little bit maybe like the oxygen mask. Like, how can I be generous to others unless I'm stoking that fire? So what does that mean, to stoke the fire of generosity? It probably means something different for each of us. For me, it means I need to pay attention to anything that hinders generosity of mind and generous behavior on my part and not feed that fire. So I have to restrain myself from saying something truly awful on social media and not feed that fire. Right now, I'm resisting sticking my head in the sand when it comes to racism and my discomfort with that word and my role in systemic racism. I have to do that, or I am not stoking the fire of generosity within me. There are so many ways to practice philanthropy, and that's what we need to ask ourselves is, how do I stoke that fire in myself so that I can live my best generous life? I was brought up in a faith tradition that reminded me, not exactly these words, but that I could give everything I had away. But that gift only becomes something meaningful when it's brought forward with love, or it's really nothing at all. So that's our call. We are not in an easy time, and I don't see that it's going to be easy, but we have what we need to come through with generosity and grace and humanity. And that's the party I want to go to. That's the party we're at today. So thank you, especially to those of you being honored today. Thank you for the ways you are stoking the fire of generosity in Missoula and beyond. And we need what you're bringing. It reminds us and shows us how to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. Always bringing me right to the brink of tears. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know I can speak for all of us when I say it's a resounding huge thank you to MNA, the Montana Nonprofit Association, Liz and her team. They have just been working so hard this year, as they do every year, but have picked up so much extra work with the pandemic and supporting the state's nonprofits through things like the PPP loan and hosting an amazing virtual conference. MNC is so lucky to have a strong relationship with MNA, and we just appreciate you probably more than you can ever know. So,
well, thank you. Thanks so much.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, without further ado, I'm going to transition over to our award presentation video put together by MCAT, and we can honor this year's awardees.
Hello, Missoula. How are you today? As we approach National Philanthropy Day, I am delighted to participate in the celebration of our local nonprofit leaders alongside the Missoula Nonprofit Center. My name is Linda McCarthy, and I work for the Downtown Missoula Partnership. It is my pleasure and honor to recognize the accomplishments of our Director of Finance and Administration, Robert Giblin. Robert has been an integral part of our team since 2011 and has played a key role in many of our organization and community-oriented successes. Throughout this past very challenging year, Robert and the Missoula Downtown Foundation Board of Directors raised and redistributed over $100,000 through the Foundation's Downtown Business Support Fund in just a few months. Additionally, Robert helped fill the funding gap for the Missoula Downtown Association, which lost 60% of its financial resources this year due to COVID and the loss of Caras Park events. While finance and administration are the primary roles, Robert has rolled up his sleeves and jumped into fundraising and grant writing. His extraordinary efforts have been very impactful for the Missoula Downtown Foundation and our downtown business community. As a board member and treasurer, Robert has also made significant contributions to City Club Missoula. Robert and I have worked together for almost 10 years, and we are lucky to have him on our team. It's a real honor for him to be recognized as the recipient of Missoula's outstanding fundraising professional. Thank you, Robert Giblin, for your service to the Downtown Missoula Partnership and our downtown community. Congratulations. We are so proud of you.
Good afternoon, Missoula. I am Robert Giblin. I'm Director of Finance and Administration for the Downtown Partnership. I'm very, very humbled to be selected as the outstanding fundraising professional for our community this year. Thank you very much. We've been very fortunate to have tremendous community support. The Missoula Downtown Foundation raised more than $100,000 for small businesses, and we were able to support 76 businesses this year. I've also been part of the team that raised an additional $350,000 for major impact projects in our downtown. So please look for some of those projects this holiday season. I've played a role in City Club Missoula for the last 5 years. City Club has absolutely made an impactful contribution in our community. We've gotten more and more people engaged in important local issues. I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much to all of my colleagues, all of our boards and staff, to City Club Missoula, and of course the Missoula Nonprofit Center for a very truly humbling award. Thank you very much.
We are Recycling Works, Missoula's only curbside glass recycling service. In just 2 years, we've diverted 500,000 pounds of glass from the landfill. After we collect your glass, it goes here to our transfer station, where we crush it and prepare it to be converted into new bottles. At Recycling Works, we want to build a better community through recycling. We serve almost 1,000 households every month, plus hundreds more that drop off our glass at our quarterly events. In addition to glass, we offer compost collection, yard waste pickup, and even carbon offset credits. Every day, we're looking for new ways to increase our impact and make Missoula as eco-friendly as possible. An operation like this requires a visionary at the helm, someone with intelligence, adaptability, and a true commitment to protecting the environment. Recycling Works would not be the organization it is today without our fearless leader, Ted Giblin.
Ted is the volunteer ED at Recycling Works, and he has been since our inception in 2018. He donates his time and energy to make sure this operation runs smoothly. And since the inception, he's been responsible for many of the ideas and initiatives that have created all of this. So his engineering background and financial expertise helped Recycling Works get off the ground and stay viable for so long. And his excellent problem-solving skills helped us overcome the challenges any new nonprofit faces. Ted donates his time because he cares about Montana and the beauty of the state. He's made an incredibly positive impact on our community, and helped us grow and thrive, and we are thrilled to present Ted with this adorable flower plant.
Yay. Thank you. I'm honored to be nominated and put forward for this by my very competent staff. It was a bit of a surprise when I got the call. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the companies, community, and neighborhood groups that have donated to help make our organization possible. Thank you to the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, who founded us originally and continue to be an important part of our organization. And thank you finally to our customers, without which we wouldn't be here. So, final note that this exotic location is just a commercial location. The folks here remind you that there's no drop-off allowed here. This is a behind-the-scenes location. Thank you very much.
Yay!
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Legbold. I am the Director of Impact at United Way of Missoula County. It is my great pleasure to announce Barbara Behan as this year's Outstanding Philanthropist. Barbara and her merry crew of Missoula sewers have provided approximately 1,500 face masks for United Way's Face Mask Initiative. Those face masks have gone directly to frontline service workers and children in child care facilities and schools in Missoula County. I met Barbara randomly on the front porch of the United Way office when she was dropping off face masks in March. At that time, we exchanged pleasantries, and then she provided me with her cell phone number, asking me to contact her at any time if we were in need of more face masks. I've done that a number of times. She's done this out of the goodness of her heart, without any compensation. I commend you and thank you very much. You are what makes Missoula strong. With that said, thank you very much. And remember, Montana, mask up.
Well, thank you so much for this award. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me to be able to help the United Way give masks to groups around Missoula that need them. And I didn't do it by myself. I have a lot of helpers, and I want to name them. People who donated fabric or other supplies or helped cut things out and otherwise helped me. So these are some people I want to recognize. Diane Rasmussen, Wendy Kuhn, Lexi Evans, Celia Groman, Julie Bell, Ann Behan, Kim Carnathon, Faye Warren, and the Sheet Metal Workers Local Union number 103 in Helena, and Missoula Textiles, and last but not least, Eric at the United Way. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruth and I'm the Development Manager at Garden City Harvest. In a time where holistic wellness and primary care service demands are at an all-time high, All Nations Health Center has persevered through the challenges, adapted their programming, and has truly made a positive difference in the lives of so many in this community. Even with the onset of COVID-19, All Nations Health Center has continued providing these services and has leveraged their work and creativity to implement modified and additional accessible services, including telehealth, medicinal tea to comfort and heal COVID-positive Missoula tribal community members, as well as no-contact produce and care package pickup and delivery. All Nations Health Center was the clear choice for our nomination as the 2020 Philanthropy Day Award winner for Outstanding Organization, and we're so excited that they won this award. All Nations Health Center offers a comprehensive suite of primary care services that include medical, dental, behavioral health, and health promotion services. These programs are designed by and for the Native community and the surrounding community members. And all programs utilize an integrated care model to achieve true and holistic wellness. Garden City Harvest feels extremely fortunate to work with All Nations Health Center as a community partner. We believe access to sustainably grown, nutrient-rich food is not only a matter of physical health, but that food has resounding meaning for our social, emotional, and spiritual health. access to high quality, culturally appropriate food, and the knowledge and land necessary to grow this food were historically taken from indigenous communities by white settlers in North America and denied return to them. Garden City Harvest nominated All Nations Health Center for the Outstanding Organization Award because they exemplify tremendous leadership and collaboration, even in times of crisis, especially in times of crisis. We are grateful for this partnership and follow All Nations' lead in addressing food access barriers for communities marginalized by ongoing structural oppression. So please join me in welcoming and congratulating Deshane Barnett, Executive Director of All Nations Health Center. Congratulations.
Hi everyone, I'm Deshane Barnett, Executive Director of All Nations Health Center, and on behalf of our organization, I just want to say thank you to Ruth and to Garden City Harvest for nominating us and recognizing the work that we're doing. I want to say thank you to United Way and all of our partners here in Missoula who help us do the work that we do. We couldn't do it alone, and we're looking forward. 2020 has been tough, but we're looking forward to a great 2021.
So I nominated Zeus for this award because I've followed her on social media for a couple of years. Well, actually, I follow her mother, who's a friend of mine, on social media. And her mom has often talked about Zeus's volunteer activities. And I've always been so impressed by everything that she does. She writes letters, she goes to marches, she makes signs, she makes masks. She gives, advocates, and volunteers for causes she believes in. And they're causes that are important to me. And I just thought that she was the best nominee I could think of for the Outstanding Young Philanthropist Award. And she does all this without needing or wanting any recognition. We kind of had to talk her into this award. And we need more humble servant leaders like Zeus. They can inspire all of us, no matter our generation. So for all she's done to improve our city, our state, our country, and our world, I am very honored to present the 2020 Outstanding Young Philanthropist Award to Susanna Jean Remish.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really not used to doing this type of thing. I've never never received an award. I just have always felt it's very important to give back to the community, do things that you feel passionate towards. So I don't know. I've never done an acceptance speech.
You're doing great.
I really appreciate it. I want to thank all the people in my community, my mom especially. She's really the one that got me into working towards what I think is right. So thank you. Thank you. Yay.
Congratulations to our winners. Maybe we can try clapping. You can try and unmute. Woo! Thank you, everybody. And I said this at the beginning, but I think this year's batch of winners is a very humble group. So I really extra appreciate their willingness to be filmed, put up Zoom backgrounds, coordinate everything with me and with MCAT. Again, a huge thanks to MCAT for the great work on the video. One other thing I wanted to note is you probably saw the cute plants that were the awards this year. Those, that pottery is from Opportunity Resources. They're Artists of Opportunity program, so thank you to them. And they're filled with little succulents from bitterroot flowers. And I think, again, this group of award winners, I think are really the type of folks who just put their heads down and work. So we're really excited to be recognizing all of the amazing work that has gone on this year in the face of so much craziness and adversity. So again, a huge round of applause for all of our winners, and I guess last thing, if anyone still needs a goodie bag, please email me. You should all have my email address. And with that, I'm really hoping I'm not forgetting anything, but thank you to Susan, Liz, everybody for getting on, and happy Friday. It's blizzarding out, so take care of yourselves and have a fabulous weekend.
We're going to do the drawing.
Oh my gosh, I knew I was forgetting something. Don't get off yet. Don't get off. I had it in my head. Thank you, Susan. Okay, so drawing for a $500 nonprofit donation. And in the interest of full transparency, I will tell you how I'm doing this. I have a list. I have an Excel sheet of every nonprofit that's represented today. And then I'm doing a random number generator on my phone between 1 and 25. There are 25 organizations represented. And I'm going to generate it right now. Number 15, which is the Missoula Writing Collaborative. $500 coming to you from Keegan, made possible by Flaherty Consulting. It'll be coming from United Way. Susan, geez, thank you for keeping me on track. And now we are done.
Thanks again to all of you. Thank you, Keegan. Thank you, Liz. Congrats to all of our award winners. Thank you all for supporting the Missoula Nonprofit Center. And Danny, thanks for a great event.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.